Did an incompetent physician lead to the death of the former Emperor of France? Did Napoleon die of poison, stomach cancer, or a doctor who should never have received his medical license? He may have been Emperor of France and a monumental personality in global history, but Napoleon Bonaparte died in disgrace. On October 15, 1815, less than 6 months after his defeat at Waterloo, the British Navy ferried Napoleon and a small entourage to St. Helena, a bleak, rocky island in the cold South Atlantic. It was a sad fate for the man whom the philosopher Hegel had called the soul of the world, an individual who, seated on a horse, stretches over the world and dominates it. Born on the Mediterranean island of Corsica, Napoleon felt like a foreigner in France, the country to which he had moved to as a boy. As a young officer, however, he would embrace his new French identity and fight his way to the top of French society by sheer willpower. In 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of France. Defeated by Britain and her allies in 1814, he made one last daring grab at power, escaping captivity on the island of Elba to reclaim his empire.
You want to kill your emperor? Here I am.
But it was short-lived, and at the age of 43, the great man was living in a hovel on St. Helena, guarded closely by his English captors. Napoleon spent his 8-year exile playing cards, dictating his memoirs, and gaining weight. He occasionally showed signs of good humor. A letter from one Miss Catherine Younghusband on St. Helena depicts him as friendly, even mildly flirtatious, although clearly bored with his new life. But overall, he was not well. Napoleon suffered from fatigue, chills, jaundice, and abdominal pain on and off. He dismissed 2 British doctors in 1819, so his uncle sent him a new doctor, a Corsican named Francesco Antomarchi. This turned out to be quite the mistake. Antomarchi was a young man of 30 with very little experience in medicine. He claimed to be a specialist in anatomy, but his resume consisted largely of plagiarism and exaggeration. His main qualification was flattery, which the emperor saw through immediately. He called Antomarchi a blockhead, an ignoramus, a fop, and a sneak. Napoleon felt weaker and weaker through the early months of 1821, made worse by Antomarchi's insistence on giving him huge doses of laxatives. By April, he was vomiting blood. On May 5, 1821, Napoleon finally succumbed and died, age 51. So what killed Napoleon? No one really knew. One British doctor called in to assist the incompetent Antomarchi even suggested that the emperor's illness was more mental than physical and not at all serious. Both Antomarchi and the British doctors on St. Helena insisted on their right to perform an autopsy, but bizarrely, their reports don't match up at all. Antomarchi had the first go and found that the ganglions of the lungs seemed enlarged and distended. He also wrote that the right lung was compressed by effusion. Pulmonary infusion in particular is a classic tuberculosis symptom. But for unknown reasons, possibly sheer ignorance, Antomarchi never named the disease as the cause of death. He also found the liver to be obviously diseased and swollen with blood, and the heart's membrane covered with small tumors. If this was an accurate observation, it's hard to know what it all means. The British doctors took a stab once the young man had finished, and their report could not have been more different. For one thing, they found the lungs to be in excellent shape. The doctors bickered with each other over the condition of the liver, some of them insisting that it was healthy and others agreeing with Antomarchi that it was swollen and diseased. What they could agree on, however, was that an ulcer in Napoleon's stomach had not only made a complete perforation, but it turned cancerous too. They wrote, "The stomach was filled with a considerable quantity of substances of a color resembling the sediment of coffee, which exhaled an infectious odor." Antomarchi, who seems not to have noticed anything particularly wrong with the emperor's stomach, refused to sign their report. Theories abound about this bizarre contradictory list of symptoms. Some have even suggested poisoning. But the most likely cause of Napoleon's death was stomach cancer, the same disease that had killed his father, made all the worse by stress and medical incompetence. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite historical figures are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.